We're already starting to see Donald Trump's actions come into effect. Even just a few hours in, it looks like Marco Rubio is going to be confirmed by the Senate tonight as the Secretary of State, so might well be the formal Secretary of State when he meets with Penny Wong, as is anticipated. And what we are talking about here is ramifications in so many departments, but what we're witnessing right now is really extraordinary. I think everyone knew that he was going to pardon the January 6 people who've been convicted in relation to that riot. I think no one anticipated that he would bring up the hostages from the Israel-Gaza conflict and have them on stage behind as he made the announcement, drawing the comparison between the two. I'm keeping an eye on what's happening. Yeah, you can see him signing these orders. We don't know exactly what they are yet. And the January 6th... Sorry, we are hearing the announcements.
Thank you. The second item, preventing bureaucrats from issuing any more regulations.
Yeah, Donald Trump there signing the executive orders with the presidential Sharpie. This is a Donald Trump thing, isn't it? The Sharpie.
Now, yeah, I mean, all presidents obviously have pens because, apart from a nice way of leaving your mark on a piece of paper, you give the pen to often the people who were significant in bringing around, say, the piece of legislation. There's a weird way that American presidents actually do their signatures, which was, imagine, literally, you do the first half of the letter of a signature, the second, all of this with individual pens, so you can give those pens around. For Donald Trump, the pen is replaced with the Sharpie. Yes, it is the sound of a texter, wiggly, wiggly, wig. He loves the feel of it, he loves the sound of it, and he's always done it, so this is the way it is. About the January 6th stuff, what's important to note here is the size and scale of the number of people who may well...
Could you imagine Biden doing this? I don't think so.
He just needed to get that in there.
Sir, the next item, as you announced in your speech, is a requirement that federal workers return to full-time in-person work immediately. Thank you, sir. Next, we have a directive to every department and agency in the federal government to address the cost of living crisis that has cost Americans so dearly.
So some of these essentially, some of them have the direct force of basically a president ordering something to happen. So say some of the immigration stuff, legal consequences of either reducing or commuting the sentences of people that have been found guilty of crimes in and around January the 6th, 4 years ago.
The next item here is the withdrawal from the Paris Climate Treaty.
Yeah, well, that one's going to go around, isn't it? The withdrawal from the Paris Climate Treaty in an election year here in Australia, that is certainly going to come up, I can tell you that much. There are big questions there for Dutton in particular.
Yes, sir.
This is not exactly going to be a climate change election for us here in Australia. It is a cost of living one, but given the nuclear announcement and the fact that there's no bipartisanship at all on energy at the moment, that is the one. But we might just keep on listening to this to see what some of these executive orders are,
of course,
because the order of the way in these things are done really gives you an indication of Trump's priorities as well. And don't forget, this is all just day one, just the beginning.
Explaining that we are withdrawing from the Paris Climate Treaty. Thank you, sir. This next item is a directive to the federal government ordering the restoration of freedom of speech and preventing government censorship of free speech going forward. And lastly, sir, before we go back to the Oval Office to sign a large number of other items, is a directive to the federal government ending the weaponization of government against the political adversaries of the previous administration, as we've seen. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Pretty clean job.
Alrighty, so some of those executive orders, many of them are just, touchstone announcements. How they'll work in practice, I don't know. But this is essentially a list of his priorities on day one. Those presidential sharpies that we're talking about. Previous presidents have had probably a quill, a special expensive pen.
Fountain pen, if you will.
A fountain pen, if you will.
I know you never write with anything less.
Donald Trump has presidential sharpies, and he just ended signing those executive orders by throwing them into a crowd. He is nothing but the entertainer